How often do you let yourself be influenced by catchy slogans and emotionally charged messages without pausing to consider their true meaning or the intentions behind them? Words are the building blocks of human experience. They are the invisible strings pulling at the puppets of our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions. We often treat language as a transparent tool, believing it to be a faithful mirror of reality. A Man Who Dared to Expose the Tyranny of Words by Stuart Chase, first published in 1938, holds even more relevance today, as it reveals the complex relationship between language and thought. The man was not alone on this journey. He stood on the shoulders of Alfred Korzybski, a Polish-American scholar whose general semantics highlighted how the structure of language influences how we perceive reality. Together, their insights reveal that words do not simply describe reality, they shape and even distort it. To further understand the influence of language on thought, we must go deeper into how words shape not only our personal beliefs, but also the collective consciousness of societies. Language is the framework through which we interpret our reality. It shapes what we focus on, what we prioritize, and even what we choose to ignore. Consider how different cultures use language to describe the same phenomenon. In some indigenous languages, there are dozens of words for snow, reflecting a deep and nuanced understanding of an environment central to their lives. Meanwhile, in other cultures, snow might be reduced to a single term, glossing over its complexity. The language we speak determines the lenses through which we view the world. Let your thoughts for me in the comments section. This linguistic influence on perception isn't just an abstract notion. It is a tangible force that shapes human action. When we are repeatedly exposed to certain words or phrases, they can create cognitive pathways that influence our thoughts and behaviors. If a person constantly hears messages of fear, for instance, they may come to see danger lurking around every corner. When words like enemy, threat, or evil are used strategically by political leaders, they can foster division, paranoia, and even violence. Language shapes thought, and thought drives action. Stuart Chase understood this power intimately. He saw how words could be used to build myths, often for the benefit of those in power. Words like progress or growth are often wielded by politicians and corporations to justify policies that may benefit a few but harm many. What does progress mean when it leads to the exploitation of natural resources, or widens the gap between rich and poor? Without critical reflection, these words become hollow, masking harmful realities under a veneer of positivity. Chase urged us to peel back the layers of meaning and question, whose interests are being served by the language used in public discourse. Even more insidious is the power of abstract words to manipulate emotions. Words such as freedom and democracy evoke powerful feelings of pride and unity, but they are often devoid of concrete meaning in practice. What does it mean to live in a free society if systemic injustices persist? When leaders invoke these terms, they often exploit our emotional attachment to their symbolic value, distracting us from the reality on the ground. This manipulation can create a populace that is more easily controlled, complacent in the belief that they are free while remaining unaware of the chains that bind them. So, how can we resist the tyranny of manipulative language? One key lies in cultivating a habit of skepticism and critical inquiry. When we hear words that stir strong emotions or claim grand ideals, we must pause and ask, what do these words really mean? Who stands to gain from their use? By peeling back the layers of rhetoric, we reclaim agency over our thoughts and decisions. Expanding on Korzybski's insight that the map is not the territory, it's vital to recognize how the words and symbols we use to describe reality often diverge from the reality itself. This disconnect creates mental landscapes that can be deeply misleading, filled with abstract representations that simplify, distort, and sometimes even obscure the true nature of what they seek to convey. Every day, we navigate our lives guided by these symbols, labels, categories, and linguistic constructs that seek to make sense of the complex world around us. But these constructs are, by their nature, limited. They cannot encompass the fullness of experience or capture the nuance of reality. Stuart Chase understood that abstract language is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it allows us to communicate complex ideas, create shared meaning, and organize societies. On the other, it can serve as a barrier to true understanding, leading us down paths paved with stereotypes, overgeneralizations, and illusions of certainty. Abstract terms like freedom, justice, and peace evoke strong emotional responses. But what do they actually mean in practice? For some, freedom might mean the absence of government interference. For others, it might signify economic opportunities or civil rights. Each of these interpretations can be valid, but when we discuss freedom as if it is a fixed and concrete concept, we risk talking past each other, missing the complexity, and diminishing the potential for true dialogue. Now, let's consider how this disconnect plays out in real-world issues. When politicians or pundits discuss crime, they often speak in sweeping generalities, using the term to stoke fear or justify policies that may have little connection to the underlying causes. But crime is not just a faceless statistic. It is the story of individual people, shaped by social conditions, economic pressures, and complex motivations. By reducing it to a single term, we lose sight of the human stories behind it. The systemic injustices, the struggles, the desperation that lead to crime. Similarly, the term inequality can be wielded as a political buzzword, but the reality it represents is far more visceral. Children going hungry, families living paycheck to paycheck, opportunities denied. Language can anesthetize us, numbing us to the raw experiences these words are meant to capture. This disconnection between symbols and reality is not merely a theoretical problem. It has profound implications for how we live and how we govern ourselves. When we reduce people to categories, the poor, immigrants, criminals, we risk losing sight of their humanity. Abstract language can dehumanize, turning complex individuals into simplistic archetypes. It can also blind us to the root causes of the issues we seek to address. Chase urged us to reconnect with reality by grounding our language in concrete experiences and rejecting the comforting haze of abstraction. When we speak about poverty, we must remember the faces and stories behind the word. When we discuss justice, we must confront the lived experiences of those who have been denied it. The danger of abstract language extends beyond social issues. It seeps into every corner of our lives. Consider how we use language in our personal relationships. Terms like love and commitment carry deep meaning, but they are often wielded as if they have a universal definition. In reality, each person experiences and expresses these concepts differently. When we assume our words capture the totality of our feelings, we risk misunderstandings and missed opportunities for connection. Language is, and always will be, an imperfect tool. But by becoming conscious of its limitations, we can strive to use it with greater care, humility, and awareness. To bridge the gap between symbols and reality, we must learn to question the language we use and the assumptions it carries. We can start by engaging with the concrete details of the world around us, by listening to the stories of those affected by the issues we discuss, by questioning the motives behind abstract rhetoric, and by resisting the urge to reduce complex realities to convenient labels. This is not an easy task. It requires vigilance, empathy, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. But it is a necessary one if we hope to build a more compassionate and understanding society. Chase's call to reconnect language with reality is, at its heart, a call to reconnect with each other. It is a call to move beyond the safety of abstraction and into the messy, beautiful complexity of real life. By doing so, we can foster genuine understanding, break down the barriers that divide us, and build a world that is guided not by hollow words, but by shared humanity and authentic connection. Political rhetoric thrives on the power of words that evoke deep emotions and stir collective action. However, as Stuart Chase emphasized, this power often comes at the cost of clarity and precision. When politicians speak of freedom, justice, patriotism, or national security, they often rely on the ambiguity and emotional resonance of these terms. These words can serve as powerful rallying cries, mobilizing masses and shaping public sentiment. But what precisely do they mean? For whose benefit are they invoked? Whose interests are concealed behind their lofty proclamations? By leaving these terms intentionally vague, those in power can manipulate our feelings and shape our perceptions without ever offering concrete solutions. Imagine a political leader who champions justice in a campaign speech. To one person, this word might evoke a desire for social equity, reforming systems that perpetuate inequality. To another, it might mean stricter enforcement of laws and a tough stance on crime. Both interpretations are valid, but they are worlds apart. By using justice without clarification, the politician appeals to diverse groups while committing to nothing specific. This ambiguity allows leaders to shift their positions later, claiming they were always aligned with the public's expectations. This is the danger of empty terms. They can be molded to fit any agenda without accountability or substance. Consider the rhetoric surrounding national security. This phrase often justifies sweeping measures that limit individual freedoms, increase surveillance, or justify military action. The fear and urgency it provokes can override rational debate and blind us to the specifics of what is being proposed. Are we truly safer, or are we merely trading our liberties for a false sense of protection? By invoking national security as a blanket rationale, leaders sidestep scrutiny and dissent. Chase urges us to interrogate such terms, to push beyond the rhetoric and demand transparent definitions and clear policies. Yet, the weaponization of language extends beyond political speeches. In propaganda, media narratives, and even everyday conversations, words are wielded to manipulate, distract, and distort. When abstract concepts go unchallenged, they can become dangerous tools for control. Patriotism becomes a shield against criticism, stifling dissent by branding it as disloyal. Progress can mask policies that serve the interests of a select few while leaving others behind. These words become smokescreens, blinding us to reality and allowing power to remain unchallenged. Chase's warning is not merely academic, it is a call to action. To resist manipulation, we must cultivate a habit of questioning the words we encounter. When a term stirs our emotions, we must pause and ask, what does it truly mean? What assumptions lie beneath it? Who stands to benefit from its use, and who might be harmed? Linguistic precision is not an abstract ideal. It is a practical tool for defending democracy, truth, and justice. Demanding clarity from our leaders forces them to move beyond slogans and offer concrete answers. It strips away the power of vague rhetoric and reveals the intentions, contradictions, and gaps that might otherwise go unnoticed. This commitment to clarity must extend beyond politics. It must become a part of how we communicate with each other. In our personal lives, we often hide behind vague language when addressing difficult topics. We say, "I'm fine," when we're hurting, or use broad terms to avoid conflict. But imprecision breeds misunderstanding, resentment, and lost opportunities for connection. Just as we demand honesty and clarity from our leaders, we should cultivate it in our relationships and conversations. By choosing our words carefully, by insisting on saying what we mean, we create a world where language serves truth, not illusion. The challenge of linguistic precision is daunting, especially in a world where rhetoric often wins over substance. But Chase believed that awareness is the first step. By becoming conscious of how language can be used to manipulate or obscure, we gain the power to resist its sway. We can reclaim our words, redefine them with care, and insist on conversations that elevate understanding rather than sow division. Political rhetoric thrives on ambiguity, but clarity is its antidote, a tool that can dismantle the grand narratives of manipulation and replace them with genuine, thoughtful dialogue. In doing so, we can break free from the tyranny of words and build a more honest, compassionate world. Reclaiming clarity in a world dominated by ambiguous and manipulative language is no small feat, but it is a necessary journey for anyone who values truth, genuine connection, and intellectual freedom. So, how can we begin to break free from the tyranny of words and reshape the way we communicate, think, and perceive the world around us? It is useful to pay close attention to your words and the language that surrounds you. Each phrase we use carries layers of meaning, often shaped by culture, experience, and the context in which we live. Words shape perceptions, and perceptions shape actions. Consider a heated political debate or a divisive news headline. Notice how loaded phrases can evoke powerful emotional responses. Do you define love in practice? Separating the symbol from the reality it attempts to represent grounds our language in something more truthful and less prone to distortion. Chase's call for a mathematical approach to language highlights the need for precision, clarity, and accountability in our communication. This does not mean stripping our language of emotion, passion, or creativity. Rather, it means striving for precision, even when speaking from the heart. When we adopt this approach, we also become less susceptible to the empty rhetoric of those who seek to manipulate us. Political leaders, advertisers, and media outlets often thrive on catchy slogans, half-truths, and emotionally charged appeals.